All right, today we're going to dig into what might just be the biggest scandal in modern football history. Seriously, this is a story of absolute power, secret phone calls, shady backroom deals, and a controversy that, even now, still rips a whole nation of fans apart. We're talking about Calciopoli.
So, to really get just how big of a shock this was, you got to transport yourself back to the summer of 2006. Just picture it. Italy has just won the World Cup. The whole country is absolutely electric, just united in this one incredible moment of pure football glory. I mean, this was the absolute pinnacle for Italian football on the world stage.
But here's the crazy part. While a national team is celebrating in Berlin, back home, Italian football was, and I mean this, literally on fire. The entire foundation of Serie A, their top league, was just completely imploding under this massive corruption scandal. A scandal so big, it was about to change the game forever.
Okay, so let's get into it. This is a pretty tangled web, so we're going to break it all down. We'll kick things off with that wild summer of contradiction, then we'll unpack what they called the Moggi system. After that, we'll look at Judgment Day, the whole mess with the unassigned title, a scandal within the scandal, and finally, why Calciopoli's shadow still hangs over the sport today. Right, so the whole thing first blew up in May 2006, just a few weeks before the World Cup was even set to start. The focus was squarely on Serie A, Italy's top league, and it created this unbelievable split-screen effect for the entire country. On one channel, you have total glory, and on the other, complete and utter chaos.
And of course, the media came up with a name for it right away: Calciopoli. Now, that poli ending is key. It's a nod to Tangentopoli, which basically means Bribesville, a huge political scandal that rocked Italy in the 90s. So for anyone in Italy, hearing the name Calciopoli instantly told them this wasn't just about a couple of bad refereeing decisions. No, this was big. This was systemic.
So, at the very heart of all this were these accusations against this powerful network of people. The claim was that they had figured out a way to pull the strings and pretty much rig the entire league from the inside.
Now, the key thing to understand here is that this wasn't your simple run-of-the-mill bribery. We're not talking about paying off a ref to throw one game. Oh no, this was way more sophisticated. The whole accusation centered on this secret system allegedly run by a top Juventus executive, Luciano Moggi. The goal was to influence who refereed the big games. And get this, to keep it all under wraps, they were using these untraceable foreign SIM cards from places like Switzerland and even Liechtenstein to talk to the guys who assigned the referees and even the refs themselves, all to make sure the right officials were on the pitch for key matches.
So, once investigators got their hands on these wiretaps, things moved fast. The Italian Football Federation, the FIGC, didn't mess around. In July 2006, just as the confetti from the World Cup win was settling, they held a sports trial. And the verdicts? Well, they sent an absolute earthquake through Italian football.
I mean, just look at how severe these initial punishments were. We're talking about some of the biggest clubs in the country. Juventus, the reigning champs, didn't just get their last 2 titles stripped away, they were thrown out of the top league, relegated to Serie B, and slapped with a massive 30-point penalty. And they weren't alone. Fiorentina and Lazio were sent down too. Now, yes, some of these punishments got softened a bit on appeal, but the message was sent loud and clear. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was too big to fail.
And this, of course, led to some incredible drama. Juventus had to basically have a fire sale, offloading huge stars like Ibrahimovic and Vieira. But, and this is the amazing part, a core group of absolute legends, guys like Gianluigi Buffon, Pablo Nedved, and their captain, Alessandro Del Piero, they decided to stay. They chose to go down with the ship and play in the second division. Del Piero's reason was summed up in that famous quote, calling the club his lady. It was just this really powerful human story, right in the middle of all this corporate mess.
All right, so Juventus has been stripped of its titles. This kicks off a whole new debate, one that honestly is still raging today. What do you do with those championships, especially the title from the 2005-06 season?
Well, the 2005 title, they just left it blank, unassigned. But for the 2006 title, they did something different. In a decision that was, and still is, massively controversial, the league just awarded the championship to Inter Milan. The thing is, Inter had finished the season in 3rd place, but since the top 2 teams, Juventus and AC Milan, were penalized, the title was just handed to Inter. It was a championship won in a meeting room, not out on the football pitch.
And this really shows you just how awkward and divisive that decision was. I mean, even some of the players on the team that got the trophy felt weird about it. One of Inter's own star players, Alvaro Recoba, came out later and said he didn't really feel like it was their title. He said Juventus won it fair and square on the field. You can imagine, this whole thing just poured gasoline on an already fiery rivalry. So for years, that was pretty much the accepted story, right? Juventus and a couple of other teams were the bad guys, and Inter Milan were the clean ones who just happened to benefit. But then, years down the line, some new information started to bubble to the surface, and it threatened to change everything. Suddenly, people started asking a pretty simple but powerful question. Was Inter Milan really just an innocent bystander in all of this? Or was there maybe more to the story?
And here is where the story takes a massive turn. In 2011, a federal prosecutor's report dropped, and it was a bombshell. It concluded that Inter Milan had also been involved in stuff that broke the rules. The prosecutor even said Inter was, and I'm quoting here, the club that risked most of all for the illegal behavior of its president. But, and this is a huge but, there was a catch. By the time this all came out, it was too late. The statute of limitations had run out, so they couldn't be punished for it.
So what exactly had they done? Well, court documents later revealed something pretty wild. Years before Calciopoli was even a thing, all the way back in 2002, Inter had apparently commissioned their own secret, illegal spying operation. Their target? A top referee named Massimo De Santis. And you gotta love the code name they gave it, Operazione Ladrone, which translates to Operation Thieves. They were illegally digging into his private life, his finances, his phone records, the whole shebang.
And look, this isn't just hearsay. What you're seeing here is a page from an actual court filing from that referee, Massimo De Santis, when he sued Inter Milan over this. It lays out the whole Operational Ladroni dossier, confirming that the club hired someone to run very in-depth checks on him. So this wasn't something they did after the scandal broke. This was a secret operation they launched years before.
So, all of this brings us to the present day. The official verdicts were handed down way back in 2006, but with all these twists and turns that came out later, the story is just, it's not over. Calciopoli is still a very real, very raw wound for Italian football. And this wasn't just about pride or who gets to claim a trophy. We're talking about serious money. A mind-boggling 443 million euros. That's how much Juventus sued the Italian Football Federation for, claiming that's what they lost in revenue from being relegated. That number alone tells you just how high the stakes were, and it's why the legal fights have been going on for more than a decade.
And that's really the legacy of Calciopoli, isn't it? It's just unresolved. The official verdicts from 2006, they still stand. But if you go to the Juventus Stadium today, you'll see they still count those two strip titles. Nobody else in Italy does, but they do. That rivalry with Inter, it went from fierce to downright toxic. And the fundamental debate, who was really guilty and who got punished fairly, it's a conversation that has never, ever stopped. And what about the man at the very center of it all, Luciano Moggi? To this day, he is completely unrepentant. His argument has always been that Juventus was just the scapegoat for a broken system that everybody was participating in. In his own words, he says he doesn't need forgiveness. If anything, he deserves praise, because Juve was the only one that paid the price for how everyone else was behaving. So in the end, yeah, the verdicts were written, the punishments were handed out, but the full story was never really put to bed. And it leaves us with this one nagging question that you can still hear echoing around Italian football today. Has Calciopoli and its long shadow ever really gone away?